back to part 2 of Know the Opening, the Nimzo Indian Defense. Today we're going to start looking at the 4 Queen C2 from white, the classical variation. This is going to get broken down into a lot of different trees. So again, I'm going to keep some of the material short so that we have a better chance of understanding it. So today we'll be looking at what happens after white plays 5a3, asking the question to the bishop. And the same thing as before in the first part, where that was the 4th move from white. We're going to take the knight on c3. And then we'll look at a few lines where white begins development with knight f3. And then in future videos, we'll look at e3, bishop g5, etc. So here we go. So we start with our d4, knight f6, c4, d6, e6, knight c3, and bishop b4, the Nimzo Indian. And in the last video, we looked at what happens when white plays a3 and we take. And today we're looking at the classical variation, which is queen c2 from white. Obviously, white's idea here is to avoid the doubled pawns once the bishop takes. So if the bishop takes now, the queen can simply take back and he's not going to damage his pawn structure so much. In this position, black is going to castle. And then on 5a3, we're going to capture just as we would in the earlier video. So we take, queen takes, and now white has achieved his objective of not destroying the pawn structure, but he's lost some time. He's moved the queen twice, and we'll see that we have some chances to prove that the queen isn't as safe as it looks on c3, and that our chance at a lead in development could give us some attacking chances right out of the gate. So in this position, we're going to play b6, which we also saw in the last variation, but instead of going after c4, which is not essentially a weakness this time, so we're going to play it a little differently and try to fianchetto this bishop on the long diagonal. Knight f3, play bishop e7. Now g3 is the first variation we're going to look at. e3 will have a couple other variations after he plays knight f3, but we'll take a look at this one first. d6. Now, if you look at this setup right here, this is primarily what you're going to see over and over and over again in these videos. It's just a great setup. I think my brain, after looking at it for so long recently, now sees attacking chances immediately. And I kind of feel so much more comfortable in this position. I was originally looking at playing d5 against the classical, and it's very sharp and it's very fun, but it definitely led me down a path that I felt a little uncomfortable with. And so I ultimately ended up landing here on these variations and these setups as something to keep in my repertoire. I think playing blitz games and things, I'll still play with d5 from time to time just because they are so sharp and so fun. And I will leave a link down below. There's a great set of videos that Jonathan Schranz did on the d5 in the classical, and there's a game with Shaq Mamarjarov in there that is just wonderful, and you should definitely check it out. So white continues their development. We continue our development with knight bd7. And now this setup that you see, this is a recurring theme through all of these lines. Just get to know this setup here with e6, d6, knight b7, b6, and bishop b7. So after castles, we have, after castles here, we have the opportunity to begin striking, I think. So I really like the move c5 here. I think it takes control of the center right away. Starts asking white what's going on over there, and I've seen a lot of games that wait until white plays b4 before playing c5. But I've landed on c5 right away here as something that I want to play, and I think if we go back right here to this position, this is this is a point where there are several things that black could play. Queen e7 is the most popular. c5 is the second most popular. a5 has been played by people such as Karpov. So, I mean, you're in good company there. Bishop e4 has been played with actually some success, but I ran through those lines and I was not too happy. Some of the other lines will transpose into the bishop e4 line, but I feel like bishop e4 right now is a little too soon. Rook c8 is a popular move, and a6 was something that Grishuk played. He had this idea of a6 b5 and then rook c8, kind of applying pressure to that c-pawn and the queen on c3. So I think right here you need to pick a flavor that you want, just as you would when you're originally applying an opening. You know, you should play an opening that you like to play. And here from this position, I think going down the rabbit hole in each of them in, you know, some sort of instructional way in a video is not useful. I think it's useful for yourself as a chess player to go down the rabbit hole and see which structures arise from certain move orders and kind of pick one that works for you. So like I said, I landed on c5, and there's a great game that I will link down in the video description as well for you to go check out. So I hope you check that out. Okay, so in the second part here, we're going to look at what happens instead of white playing g3. They're going to play bishop g5, which is a little bit more sharper line, creating a pin on our knight. So we have our Nimzo here, queen c2, take, bishop b6, preparing bishop b7 to get on the long diagonal. And we're going to play exactly the same. Bishop g5 is our variation. And we are going to play essentially the same here. We're going to just play d6, get our knight into knight bd7. White playing e3 to obviously develop the bishop and get castled. So knight bd7. And then from here, there are a couple trees. So the first one we'll look at as when white plays bishop d3. Now our idea here is to try and kick the bishop out of g5, remove that pin, and then establish our knight on e4 with some support, right? And if we can achieve this will also be a reoccurring theme in a lot of lines. You'll see this set up a lot. So we chase the bishop away. We throw the knight into e4. There was only 2 games in the database that I was using where the bishop took here. And it was one game was a draw and one game was a win for black. So it didn't fare very well for white. And it's honestly something that I want to go back and look at to know exactly why. But okay, so queen c2, and then this move, f5. And we're expanding on the king side, and potentially weakening our king by creating this attack. However, I love these variations. I feel like they get sharp, and I don't have to worry about some of the insane lines that the d5 sharp play led me down and eventually led me to choosing these lines. So after castles, we have 2 popular moves here. There's queen f6, which just, again, it's personal taste at this point, right? I like the idea of bringing the queen to the king side attack first before beginning any sort of pawn rush over there. But there are games that have also gone with h5. And let's see. There's one game in particular. Let me find here. We'll go through these moves. Yeah. So eventually this queen slides over, and I'll put this link in the description as well. Black ended up winning this game. But you can see how the move that I was saying that I like to play just gets the queen over into the attack first, and then I would have ideas of playing h5. On b4, again, we're going to play c5. And there's several games that follow this order, but the idea is that you're going to end up with a kingside attack, and you've taken control of white's advancement in the center on the queen side with your c5 play. So you should be okay. I love these positions. I love these chances. I mean, h5, h4 coming. It's pretty nice. You can even make a prophylactic move of playing rook f7 in case this file opens up and this knight is vulnerable. And then you can always swing the other rook over and double up as you're going to be attacking on the king side. So that is cool and fun. Okay, let's go back. Instead of bishop d3, white can also play bishop e2. And in this position, we're basically playing the same thing. The objective is to remove the pin from the bishop on g5, right? So we're going to try to kick the bishop out and then plant our knight on e4, and then follow that up and support it with f5. So h6, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, knight e4. And knight e4 is great because we always have this potential of hacking off this bishop, right? So queen c2, f5. And then in these variations, white is going to castle here, but not kingside. White's going to castle long, and we're going to have a very sharp game. Queen f6, again, is the move that I like here. And there's a few games, and one in particular that I will link in the description for this as well. So that's about all I have for today for part 2. We'll continue down the rabbit hole in the next video with the classical variation. So there's still much to be said about the classical variation and much knowledge for me to cement in my brain. I hope this helps you, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.